through all of these slides. I'll do my best to go through all of these slides. And if there's anything that you would like to speak about, we can put it in the chat or towards the end of the presentation, we'll definitely take a question and answer session. So HR Biz, we're a bilingual international HR consulting firm specializing in people first, compliance-driven, culturally competent HR solutions for small and medium-sized businesses. Founded by myself, Carolina Puerta-Estevez. I'm a dual citizen of the United States and Spain, and I have bilingual HR expert organization, which will build a stronger workplace through clarity, structure, and strategic support. So normally what I do is I strategize with my clients on their HR needs, and I make sure that we're able to come together and be compliant. Here's what we do. We work with employee handbooks and policies, job descriptions and compensation structures, HR audits and compliance to make sure that you're following all of the governmental guidelines and state guidelines as well as safety, onboarding systems, and full cycle for HR support. Also do training and workforce development, leadership and supervisor training, DEI communications and workshops, compliance-based training, and any type of standard operating procedure creation and operations improvement. On the career coaching side, we do resumes and interview prep and career strategy, but with my small business clients, we work more on professional profiles and being able to convey in a professional manner the business and the individuals that are behind the business. And we also do have Spanish and English translation services for HR in terms of legal, corporate, and training, as well as custom workshops like this one today, designed for nonprofits and small businesses and community-based organizations. So definitely do all types of public speaking. Why is HR Biz important for combining approach? Because of cultural competency, regulatory compliance, practical HR systems, clear communication, having people-centered strategies, and also to help employers attract, align, engage, and retain their workforce. And I know that anyone that is a part of this webinar today will appreciate that because they can relate to that. So HR Biz, my company, my HR company, operates the same as, and you can insert your business name here, your company. Why is it important to have human resources? HR ensures that organizations operate within federal, state, and local laws. This will also protect both the employer and the employee. HR will boost community stability and economic development as well. It creates more stability with jobs. It helps protect workers. Families have more economic security. Local businesses strengthen the local economy, and there's less turnover and more long-term career development. I also believe it creates community, and HR contributes directly to the community resilience. Why does HR matter everywhere? In business, HR provides structure, compliance, talent development, and organizational stability. It creates a backbone for the business. In communities, HR promotes equity, creates job pathways, connects resources, and strengthens the local economy. Why does HR strengthen businesses? It'll ensure legal and regulatory compliance. It'll build clear policies, SOPs, which are standard operating procedures and structure. It'll improve productivity through training and systems. Will reduce turnover and support retention, and also will develop leadership and healthy workplace culture. So today we are looking at aligning, engaging, and retaining, hiring and keeping employees, as well as practical strategies to strengthen company culture. What does alignment mean? It means to have a shared mission, shared expectations. Alignment equals clarity plus consistency. Misalignment, the opposite, would cause friction and turnover. Values to behaviors to actions. Values must be visible and trainable. A valuable example would be respect. The behavior would be active listening, and the action would be weekly team reflections. Leadership alignment is also a must. I've been in organizations where we, behind closed doors, have made decisions, and we've had to have those decisions, whether it's been a unanimous vote or not, as a management and leadership and executive team, we've had to leave that meeting and all be on the same page. And it's because leaders like ourselves, we set the tone and the cultural standards. We show consistency across supervisors, which will prevent mixed messages. And it also offer tools for leadership, for standard operating procedures, regular check-ins, and policy interpretation guides. Standard operation procedures are cultural alignment tools because they basically will write your culture clearly, and they'll ensure fairness and reduce liability, as well as improve process and efficiency. So the HR Biz method equals compliance plus clarity plus bilingual access. Understanding employee engagement. I've noticed at times that when employees are not engaged, they're not happy. And this seems to be consistent with the standard that engagement equals emotional commitment plus purpose. And high engagement can decrease absenteeism and turnover. What are the four drivers of engagement? Having a voice where employees feel heard, growth, opportunities to learn, recognition, acknowledgement of contributions, well-being, physical, mental, and emotional support. Engagement strategies for any business. Try to have some daily huddles, some stand-up meetings, a 5-minute meeting at the beginning of each day shift. Some quick surveys or QR feedback loops. A little bit more of a digital presence within the business instead of you putting everything just on paper, maybe having, I've even seen individuals do, if they have a private Facebook page or a social media page that's private for the organization, or even a text chat, or they'll upload QR feedback loops to that will go to a survey, and then you will get feedback directly for what you need. Offer cross training programs as well. That's a great strategy for engagement. People go in and they might want to climb what we will consider the ladder of responsibility and management paths, or they want to move into different departments as well. That it will give you an opportunity to understand your business well if you do it in that manner. Recognition systems, so positive points, peer nominations and awards. That's a great strategy to engage your employees, as well as having a proper reference to an employee handbook. Why is psychological safety and inclusion important? Because safe voice increases performance. It will encourage it. Multicultural workplaces require language accessibility, and they support bilingual communication bridges. Communication as engagement is important with employee handbooks and these standard operating procedures, and I'll give you an example later in this webinar, as well as the transparent communication practices, manager communication scripts, and internal newsletters or updates. So basically plan your communication ahead of time, map it out so that you have an opportunity to be ahead of it and you can communicate as a leader with your organization. So why do employee handbooks matter? They set expectations, they reduce conflict, they improve compliance with workplace laws, they protect business legalities and legally, they strengthen company culture, supporting alignment, engagement, and retention, which is what we're talking about today. And remember that the must-haves, you choose the rest. Here's what we'll cover: the required legal sections of the employee handbooks, recommended policies for food businesses, since we're dealing with food, culture and operational essentials, training integration, and how to structure your professional handbook. An employment handbook sets the tone for your business. This is important to identify when I sit down with my clients. You can firm up your business as much as possible. There's always the compliance categories that you need, and then there's these policies that you need developed as well internally. But you set the tone of your business based on your handbook. If you firm up your handbook to the maximum and you have policies for everything, that will set a tone. If you have a basic handbook and you don't have policies for anything, that will set a tone. So that's why it's important that you understand that your handbook will set the tone of your business. Here's the legal requirements of your handbook. You'll need at will employment statement, equal opportunity and anti-discrimination, harassment and retaliation prevention, OSHA safety, as well as we're in Michigan, my OSHA, so food safety compliance, wage and hour rules, so Fair Labor Standard Act, breaks, overtime, any type of reasonable accommodations, and complaint procedures. Also, you'll need for employment policies, hiring and onboarding process, job classifications, full-time, part-time, temporary, timekeeping and payroll expectations, attendance and punctuality rules, leaves of absence, FMLA, if applicable, based on the number of employees that you have, and the disciplinary procedures. So here's some food industry specific examples that you need, like personal hygiene and illness reporting, hand washing rules, glove use and cross-contamination prevention, temperature control responsibilities. That would be more for food safety, equipment sanitation duties, and emergency contamination response. In terms of food industry, OSHA and food compliance for your handbook, you can have emergency procedures, evacuation, fire, tornado injury, PPE, personal protective equipment requirements for positions, any type of chemical handling, and SDS, which is the sheet behind the need of the chemical handling. The lockout, tagout, if you have any type of machinery or equipment, maintenance personnel, reporting injuries and near misses, and supervisor responsibilities. Some workplace behavior policies for, to have in your employee handbook, like code of conduct, anti-violence and workplace conflict, social media expectations and computer usage policies, very important, customer service standards, and professional communication. You'll also have to have technology and security policies. So behind what we talked previously about the policies of social media and the like, you'll have to have an acceptable use of devices. So if there's any type of equipment that you're offering on site that is the company's equipment, you'll need to have that. Data privacy and confidentiality, password expectations, and the use of a POS system or company provided software, which is anything having to do from retail to equipment, software with memory to a computer or laptop or phone. I recommend these policies, and a lot of my clients really do think about this depending on where they are at in the United States. Inclement weather, what are the procedures for inclement weather? Scheduling expectations, tip handling if applicable, or gift receiving if you have any type of rewards that are coming into your facilities or into your businesses. Uniform and appearance standards if you have a program for uniforms or even mats, as well as personal appearance, and vehicle use, company provided. And then some culture building sections that must-haves on your handbook should be mission, vision, and values, how employees contribute to the brand, what communication expectations are, leadership commitments, and any type staff empowerment practices. Here's how you can integrate training into the manual. You could put required initial food safety training as a program. On the job task training checklist will be offered as well. Ongoing training schedules, supervisor mentoring expectations, and an annual refresher requirement and sign off. So that means that as you introduce training or you introduce this manual as well, you'll be signing off on it on an annual basis. The structure of a strong handbook should have a clear introduction, a logical section order, policies grouped by function, an appendix for forms and checklists, bilingual when needed, English, and you choose the other language that's necessary based on your workforce. And that would be a predominant language other than English. What should not be in a handbook? Overly detailed procedures, standard operating procedures, they belong elsewhere. Those belong in a manual, depending on where they're going to be. They can also be implemented and then put out where they need to be so that they can be reviewed and retrieved. Um, Complex legal language, promises of guaranteed hours or promotions, and anything contradicting state or federal law. So with the reviews and the updates, you want to go in and you want to make sure that you do an annual legal review. You update after law changes. You update when operations change. You redistribute the updated version and you sign the acknowledgments required. So this is where you are going to roll out the handbook or you already have the handbook, and anything that changes throughout the year, you want to make sure it does get signed off of on an annual basis. So your final checklist for building the manual is you want to make sure it meets legal requirements. It reflects your company culture. It includes safety compliance. It provides clarity and structure, and it's easy to read and accessible. This last one is very important. They're all important, but this one I feel is important because, as I mentioned, it's the backbone of the business, the structure, the policies, the programs that are being offered. So, a lot of the questions that employees will ask their supervisors, their managers, they can be reflected in the handbook. So, it's a way for you and them to be able to look them up and make sure that they're understood. And then sometimes some questions aren't asked because they're already responded based on the handbook. So why do employees stay? Employees stay because they feel that they have purpose, belonging, growth, fairness. They feel valued. Um, Ask yourself, why do you think your employees stay, or why do you stay as well? You should ask your employees, what keeps you here? What would tempt you to leave? What can we do better? How can your talent be better used? In HR, we have key performance indicators just like every piece of the business. Um, KPIs in HR will track turnover rate, absenteeism trends, any type of survey engagement, whether it's anonymous or not, the time to fill and the cost to hire positions and individuals, and in internal promotional rates. The retention across the employee life cycle goes as follows. It starts with an attraction. Within that attraction, you're posting positions or you're finding a referral for a role. You're onboarding them, you're hiring them, onboarding them, you're developing them, and then you're offboarding them. Onboarding is the number one predictor of early turnover. and strengthen each stage to retain the talent. So in the beginning, we're going to talk a little bit further now in this presentation about um, performance reviews and the like. But what I want to take the science out of the life cycle. In the 30, 60, 90-day plan, you should be training and offering performance reviews. There should be a buddy system. Buddy system is old school to having someone on site that you can go to, not necessarily only your supervisor, your manager, or the owner of the company, but someone that you can say, I have this situation. Who do I ask for that? So that it's not boggling down just only one individual or siloing the process. Orientation materials and scheduled check-ins. With onboarding new employees in food, day one, your basics would be a facility tour, talk about the safety and the sanitation procedures. There'll be sign-offs on that, a job shadowing, a training checklist. As they're trained, they're checked off on their training. It can be on a matrix. It doesn't have to be an individualized, but it can be as well. Having supervisors sign off on those trainings as well, utilizing training material that's available, and having that 30, 60, 90-day progress checks. Now, this is more corporate related in the sense of 30, 60, 90. Sometimes you have to cross correct prior to 30 days. So I would do daily check-ins for the first week, even 2 weeks, and see how everything's going, and then 30, 60, 90. So to create an onboarding checklist, you want to have, what's going to happen on the pre-arrival before the first day. Day one, welcome and orientation, company and culture, HR and compliance, food safety orientation. Day one, as well as job specific training. Then week one is training and integration. Week 2 to 4, skills and performance. 30-day check-in, 60-day check-in, 90-day check-in. Technically, after 90 days, it'd be an end of a probationary period based on this model. And then you would have employees and supervisors sign off. The onboarding checklist for the pre-arrival before the first day, you want to make sure your offer letter got sent and signed. That's also the acceptance of the position and an email. If it's not an official offer letter to be signed, but it's the acknowledgement that you accept the position or that they accept the position. A job description has been provided as well. Their schedule for the first week has been shared. If they have to have uniforms or a dress code, that's also been provided to show them what the expectation is once they come on site. Any type of new hire paperwork prepared. So your tax forms, your ID verifications, emergency contacts I like to put in there as well. Workspace, locker, or any type of a station assigned. The email login credentials are created. So I've seen time and time and again, people get ready to work. They actually are going to have a computer and then they don't have a computer on their first day because I'm not blaming IT. I'm just saying it's just not ready. So it's one of those circumstances that new hire doesn't start off on the right foot with all their tools to begin with. And it may take longer, it may not be a day, but they're without what you need, which is productivity through the computer, if that's what their position will entail. Any type of training materials or prepared standard operating procedures or manuals. Equipment and tools are ready as well, and a manager assigned as an onboarding lead. Time and time and again, I see the same individuals taking everything down. Even as an HR manager, HR executive, you can't handle everything by yourself. So it's better if you train others and you train them in the process, and it'll work a lot more smoothly. So an onboarding checklist with the welcome orientation and the company culture and HR compliance. You want to welcome the introduction, the facility tour. You want to review their company mission, values, and expectations. And that day, you definitely want to have them meet the team and all the key contacts. Then in terms of the compliance of HR, you want to collect their identification documents. You have to make sure that you have, the I-9, there's column A, B, or C, and you have to make sure that you have the proper documents for that I-9 form. You want to be able to complete their tax forms, any direct deposit form if you're doing that as well. You want to review the attendance policy with them. And you also want to do any type of safety rules and reporting procedures on day one. You also want to have, if you're doing food safety or if you're handling food, your hand washing protocols, your glove use and personal hygiene standards, any type of temperature control basics that you're working with, allergens awareness, cross contamination prevention. They should have that on day one. The job specific training should look like a workstation introduction, reviewing the job tasks and the performance expectations, demonstrating their use of equipment, showing them where you have your standard operating procedures or any type of relevant operating procedures they can reference, and an experienced team member to shadow on day one instead of just throwing the person in their position. On week one, their training and integration checklist should look like a daily check-in with their supervisor, review cleaning and sanitation procedures, practice receiving and storage tasks like first in and first out product for use efficiency, completing first training checklist items, demonstrating the understanding of the food safety tasks, reviewing the emergency procedures like fire, injury, evacuation, as well as throw in inclement weather as well, and introducing any type of digital or paper manuals for referencing. With week 2 to 4, so 2 weeks to a month, your skills and performance checklist should look like completing job specific standard operation procedure training. If they're handling any type of knives or equipments, making sure that they have those types of safety certifications. Chemical safety, so like OSHA safety or any types of hazardous communication safety, handling as well of chemical and disposing. Completing mandatory safety trainings as well as beginning working independently with supervision. So by week 2, they should be doing that. If you feel that they can do that by week 1, then you'll just condense this checklist. And then also having any type of supervisor documents and progress. At a 30-day check-in, your onboarding checklist should be reviewing their performance and comfort with tasks, discussing challenges or questions, providing feedback and next steps, and then confirming their comprehension on the standard operating procedures or the training that they've been receiving through the business. The 60-day check-in for the onboarding checklist, you'll evaluate consistency and quality of work. You'll confirm food safety compliance. You'll provide development goals. Within those, there'll also be your KPIs, and you'll identify additional training needs. The 90-day check-in should be like a full performance evaluation, which can also happen at a 6-month mark and at the year, or it can happen annually. There you should see the culture fit and teamwork assessment. That's a good buy-in from others around you of how that individual is doing. Confirm training completion, so making sure that they have been checked off on all the matrices of training. Determining ongoing development plan, communicating the ongoing development plan for them, as well as finalizing their employment status. So if you're going to hire them on full-time from there, as a permanent employee. They're not on probation anymore, if that's the 90-day rule that you have, and let them know that they are a part of the team, even though they have been from day one. Make sure that your onboarding checklist also has the name of the employee, their position, their start date, and any type of signatures, the supervisors as well as the employees, and the date that it was completed. So with employee training and manuals, it's important. We talked about how onboarding is important and how training is important. So now we're going to talk about what your trainings need and why they matter. So training and why training manuals matter is they have to comply with safety. You comply with OSHA safety, IOSHA safety, or any state safety that's seeing this, health department codes, USDA, FDA, you name it. This is why it's important. It offers consistency across shifts and locations. It will reduce turnover and onboarding time when you have proper training and manuals. Will also protect the business from liability by creating a procedure and process. And it will build strong culture and employee confidence when you have these processes in place. It'll show that you are a stronger business. The risk of not having training or manuals, it will give you a lot of inconsistent practice and an error for interpretation and a higher error rate with safety violations. It also offers and opens the door to injuries or workmen's compensation claims, any type of miscommunication in workplace, as mentioned before, any type of slow or ineffective onboarding, and will also create high employee turnover rate. When you don't offer processes, you are offering high turnover. What every training manual should include: the company overview and its values. We talked about the mission, the vision, and where the company is looking for, where they're going. Safety standards, food, HACCP basics, workplace, OSHA, cleaning and sanitation procedures, customer service expectations, equipment operation and standard operating procedures, emergency procedures, attendance and HR policies, and a clear understanding of translation when needed. The heart of training, and I keep mentioning standard operating procedures, but it's basically coming up with a process and communicating it properly and following it. So it has clear step-by-step repeatable instruction, reduction of errors, helps maintain quality control, supports new employees, and will create fairness. Here's 8 importances of standard operating procedures: to ensure consistency, protect the business and support compliance, improves training and onboarding, supports accountability and clear expectations, enhances efficiency and reduces waste. It will protect institutional knowledge and strengthen customer experience, as well as enable growth and scalability. For food and product establishment SOPs, most food laws will require SOPs to be established prior to opening. So an example of food safety training basics would be proper hand washing and glove use, avoiding cross-contamination, if handling food, temperature control, hot and cold holding, cleaning and sanitation standards, allergen awareness, and personal hygiene standards. Another example for food operation training would be receiving and storage procedures, inventory methods of first in and first out, equipment cleaning logs, any type of sharp object knife safety, PPE, personal protective equipment utilization, gloves, masks, aprons, chemical safety in terms of OSHA or your state's compliance. It's important to create multilingual and accessible training if you have the workforce that speaks a language other than English. I have seen bilingual manuals that will be in Spanish and English. I've seen them in Vietnamese and English. I've seen them in Bosnian and English. Again, this just depends on the language that is the dominant second language of your workforce. You want to utilize visuals for low literacy or any type of English as a second language individual. QR codes linking to videos or hyperlinks provided so that they can utilize their phones and our a way for them to retrieve information on their own. Provide hands-on demos, so showing what you need and how you need it done. And that could be a training method as well, based on making it accessible to them. And what we found HR professionals is to avoid jargon and use more simple language without offending, but just making sure that you're clear and concise. Digital versus paper manuals, it's completely up to your preference, just as long as you have it. A digital benefit would be easy to update. You can attract video, upload videos and photos, and it can be accessible by phone or by other platforms. A paper benefit, we put here like useful for kitchens, but specifically this is if you have a workstation or you have an area, you can put a paper manual there. It will work without internet. So if your internet is ever down and you still need to produce, you have the capabilities of doing that. And it is easy to post in a workstation and upload. My advice is always follow a revision process where you have the date and the most updated version of the document posted at all times. So there's no misinformation or any type of, let's say, gray area. If you want to build a training program step by step, you have to define roles and key tasks. You got to break the tasks into the standard operating procedures. You have to prioritize the food safety and the critical tasks, or the food harvesting and the critical tasks involved, and the storage tasks involved, and the handling. You have to train the supervisors first, so that will create a train the trainer program. So you have an individual or individuals on site that are designated as train the trainers. You'll launch this onboarding program. You can track completion, and you want to definitely be updating it as you utilize the training, but check on it quarterly. How do you measure training success? By reduction in errors. You'll see it will be reduction in errors, can be waste, financial, by turnover, all of that can happen. Government inspection improvements as well. When you have proper training and documents and processes, anytime anyone comes to your area, facility, company, they can see that you have those processes as well. And that will help you with your inspections. I've also seen it help with any type of insurance inquiry as well when you have processes in place. A consistent product quality will show when you have proper training, and that will also be measured by training success of let's say less scrap and more prime product to sell, and then also lower and reducing turnover. Training tools, you can laminate station cards or post laminate papers at a workstation. Can be an office employee, and it can be a field employee. It can be any employee. Photos and step-by-step posters of what needs to be done. QR code videos explaining the process and how it can be done visually. Shadowing other shifts so that they can see how it's done. If they're the only individual that's on that shift that is making that product or producing that skill. Having a digital standard operating procedure library, as well as manager coaching scripts. Maintaining the manuals and the training, you'll have to update them annually and have employees sign off on them. You have to review after your government inspections. If you had, let's say, an audit and they came in and they had you correct something on site, I would definitely be adding that as a new procedure or updating the current procedure so that it's something that shows the correction and that it's going to be continued moving forward. If you had to add steps after the errors occur, make sure that that is defined and make sure that you present yourself a case study of what happened so that you can go back and remember it. And it'll be retrievable only for you. And then involve your employees on the improvements. So if you know that you've got a process and the process is going to be improved and it has been improved, you're going to be training them up on that process and they're going to be taking that process and moving it forward. Common training mistakes is doing things verbally with no communication. So just shouting things out, expecting people to write things down, or giving them a lot of indication without the proper training. Not having any visual, so nothing to reference, just basically going off of what you're saying. No standard onboarding program. So, like, no way of understanding how to do the job, what's expected of them, maybe even going over numbers of productivity and the like. Um, Rush training due to staffing pressures. I've seen this time and time and again in the organizations I've worked for. And it's a lot more comfortable to have an organization that's doing great and has all the individuals in their place than the one that has to always be fine tuning and has to figure out like basically I need somebody yesterday. And so it's always having a staffing instability and it can be high turnover. It could be constant training and retraining. So there's a breakdown in the process. And those are common training mistakes. And not properly training your supervisors so that they can also be the ones to, number one, help their subordinates. Number two, show expectation. And number three, be able to answer any of the questions that are needed at the time and can properly train. They'll probably be your train the trainers. What would be a quick win to implement weekly? So don't be overwhelmed. If you don't have process, you can take it, step by step, obviously. But a quick win, if you wanted to implement this, let's just say a quick check target, create one SOP weekly instead of going in and dissecting your whole organization. And if it's by department, maybe create one SOP per department weekly if you have leaders for that department. Add photos to one existing manual. If you see a manual that needs it, add it. Post a created schedule, like a cleaning, a production schedule, so that people can visualize that, whether it's digital or by paper. Hold a 5-minute meeting at the beginning of each shift. I like to have these meetings structured. I like to talk about, what's expected out of the employee that day, what's coming up in the business if there's something new, what pains are coming from the day before, if there are any. Have a structured meeting so that you cover every point, and then at the end of the meeting, employees can say what they need to say. Also, great time to recognize a birthday, an anniversary, a service anniversary, anyone coming back into the workforce, a new hire. Those are great times to give those individuals the welcome and the accolades that they need, and it shows also that you care. And then also, don't forget to begin using a training checklist so you can try to implement that as well. So, a summary for your 4-step roadmap for HR success. Today, earlier, we talked about how you can align your values, your standard operating procedures, and your leadership for a successful organization. You want to engage your employees and your organization through a voice, recognition, and proper communication. You want to retain your employees as well through onboarding processes, development, as well as professional development, and the stay interviews of what do you need, how is it, What feedback can you give? That's also getting them involved in the process and feeling that, giving them the opportunity to feel more as a community. And then don't forget that training is extremely important. We know as individuals, we bring individuals in and we want them to be successful. And I would rather assume and err that they don't know and properly train them and just explain this is the process, this is the expectation, this is the procedure, and then anything that can be improved. Sometimes you even get that from your new hires or from the individuals that you're training, and then you're also updating your training procedures. Involve them, praise them if they do also do anything that is going to improve those processes or improve any type of company processes. And then you want to use your manuals as well and have your manuals available with the latest revision date so that everyone is on the same page of what's expected and no one is working off anything that is obsolete. So HR Biz, my company specifically does business consulting and planning. We do handbook creation and customization in English and Spanish, being bilingual myself, standard operating procedure development, as well as compliance documentation and training for HR. I'd like to leave with you as well some of our sources that I put together for our presentation today that you are welcome to click on for future reference. I did grab Michigan because we're in Michigan, so I wanted to make sure that we followed the state compliance laws. And here's my information. Does anybody have any questions at this time?
Hey, Carolina. There's one question in the Q&A. Are there any free templates for writing an employee handbook?
A free template? I mean, you can always try to get something through AI if you wanted to, but it's not really guaranteed that it's correct. And I would say it's best to reference either an HR professional, a labor law attorney to be able to put your handbook together, since that is like the legal basis of your business as well as it sets the tone, as mentioned before. So I just don't recommend a free because when you have a consultation with an individual like myself, you'll realize that there are parts of your business you didn't even think about that you would like to form a policy on or that you'd like to include in the handbook. So, what'll give you the free versions, or if you go online and you look to see if you can get a free version, it won't really cover everything. It'll give you a basis. And then you don't necessarily know if everything that's there is correct or not. So it's best to bring it a professional, just like you would bring a professional for marketing or you would bring a professional for accounting, then you would want to bring a professional with HR for a handbook. Hope that helps.
Yes, thank you. There